early work experience out there working in restaurants to be able to say, hey, okay, that's what I've learned, and now I'm going to try it out real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we are going live, and we're just waiting for there we go. We're on Periscope, and we are on YouTube, and LinkedIn will be coming up in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Real Hospitality Live. I have the best job in the world. I get to hang out with my friends. I get to talk to professionals from around the world. Today, I get to spend time with two of my favorite people ever. Is my friend David Derpak, who is one of the top and most celebrated educators, not only in Canada, but around the world. And his business partner with their new venture, Christine Couvelier, who is one of the top R&D chefs in the world, who is the former chair of George Brown, top education for culinary in North America and the world. Welcome, guys. I've been anticipating working with you and talking with you again. I know we have conversations back and forth all the time, but to get both of you on the same screen in the same room is a hoot. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Jason.
Your new project is Teach, Taste, Learn, which is absolutely clear and crisp about what you do. The two of you are professionals in your own right, and to be able to combine what you're doing is such a benefit to not only education, but to the hospitality and culinary industry. It's amazing to actually have a powerhouse come together like this. Tell me about your new project.
Let me start a little bit, Jason, and then Christine will cut me off and fill in. Basically, it's exactly as you said. It's a marriage, and taking all of the expertise that my colleague Christine has in the culinary world, and the research and development, as well as her experience in terms of working in different colleges, marrying that with my background in education, having been in education for many years, as the hair left on my head will tell you. And just kind of combining those two things into an opportunity to work together. So working with hospitality, working with culinary colleges to try to improve everything from operations to safety planning to instruction. And that's what we're looking to do.
Well, we're not saying that the colleges are doing everything wrong. We're saying this is an opportunity for us to come in and evaluate what the colleges are doing, particularly now. The hospitality and culinary industry is reopening around the world. There's a new way of doing things. People haven't been at restaurants in a while, and people haven't been in school in a while. So this is an opportunity to talk to the industry, to find out what they need, what solutions they have to have with the graduates they may be hiring, and translate those needs to the colleges to be able to say, all right, here are some courses, here's a different way of doing things, so that when the graduates come out, they'll be able to jump into the industry and provide help that is relevant and current.
Well, and that's in the outline of what you're doing. I mean, you're doing curriculum review, coaching, all of these things. And when you're doing curriculum review, what are some of the things that you're looking for that are relevant, or that you would add to a particular curriculum?
Well, if we think about the target employer, what would be the target employer for your culinary students? And are you teaching them the skill set that they'll then be able to use when they get hired?
Right.
And I think, adding new ideas in, we had the pleasure of working with an amazing gentleman, Chef Mark Burton. And what he talked about was bringing in his passion for things like foraging and sustainable foraging, studying sustainable fisheries, looking at ways that sustainable fishing occurs in different parts of the world. That's just one example. For a fellow like yourself, who I've had the pleasure of working with, I'm sure that every restaurant you go into and every classroom, you go, hey, that's a good idea. I'd like to try that. Or, oh, I never thought of that. And so for me, I've been in classrooms from Chile to China and all over China, Vietnam, Brazil. And every single time I've gone in a classroom, I think, wow, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. Or incorporating certain aspects of technology to enhance the curriculum delivery. And then you even break into how is that curriculum delivered?
Right.
You look at research nowadays, most learners now are not auditory learners like the most of the teaching we had when I was in school or when you were in school. People are now tactile and visual. They want to touch, taste, and feel, and be, involved in the class rather than just sit down, shut up, and listen. So it's fun to look at the curriculum as well as the delivery.
And, we could bring in experts in their field. So if you want to learn more about olive oil, well, let's bring in an olive oil sommelier, do a lecture, do a taste. If we want to learn more about foraging, if we want to learn more about herbs, if we want to learn more about salmon, we bring in a salmon fisherman or a salmon producer from a manufacturing facility and really bring that expertise from the outside. Focusing externally is so important in the culinary education industry. We can't just have our blinders on and think about what's in the book or what we've taught in years past. The industry changes at the speed of light. So the schools have to change what they're teaching and how they're teaching. I've watched Dave go in and evaluate faculty members in an incredibly uplifting and supportive way. These culinary faculty have been trained as chefs, but no one trained them to be teachers.
Just a minute, I'm going to get my wife right now and tell her this. No. I had the pleasure of seeing Jason McBride teach as well. And, whether just being his personality or based on research, but, even things like delivering information with humor. Again, the research says that if it's delivered with emotions and humor, the retention is far higher. Little things like that make a big difference. And you're talking about engaging students and wanting them to retain what you're giving them. That type of thing is so important to do. And, when one guest speaker I brought in on professional development was a guy named Scott Ormiston, who was Canada's Prime Minister of Canada's award-winning teacher. So rather than just, it's like the NBA bringing in a shooting coach. It's not like the coach of the Raptors doesn't know how to teach shooting. It's sometimes you're bringing an outside expert, and everyone's got a rapt attention to that outside speaker. But having someone like that who dragged in humor, stories. I mean, he had us laughing, he had us crying, and then laughing again with real life. And he's a Prime Minister of Canada's award-winning teacher. So both Christine and I have access to these kind of experts, and hopefully we can bring them in and have them help people in the industry.
And we have access to these experts around the globe. It's not just a Canadian or a North American focus. So we can go wherever the school is placed and have the experts in those locations at our fingertips to come into the colleges, as well as talk to the industry in those global locations about what they need around the world.
I think it's when you talk about connections too, it's super helpful that, Christine, you have access and connections with suppliers and growers and people from all around the world and all across North America to be able to bring those products in to learn new ways to prepare them and to cook them and experiment with them and all of those things. It's not just the these are the mother sauces, and it's not all just that. So I think to have access to your connections to be able to do that is paramount. And it's not something that somebody who's coming to a culinary school is going to get access to in any other way.
You're right. And you know what it is? It's not all just the access, but it's setting up the next generation of culinary professionals to know that they all will not be a sous chef or an executive chef or a pastry chef. They can be an R&D specialist. The product development world is fabulous when you have your culinary training. They can be a food blogger, a food writer, a food stylist. There's so many areas that we are, should open up to them and say, here are examples of what you can do with your culinary degree.
Or a trendologist.
Or a culinary trendologist, absolutely.
And I want to talk about the teaching the teachers a little bit, in that your approach to the care, in that teachers don't just get stuck in the same rut, and to get an opportunity to not only see new ways of presenting, but seeing how other people present. I mean, we did this program together, Dave, and wow, to be able to sit in with other teachers and learn from them, and for you to direct and give these ideas to culinary schools is just key. I mean, when I talked with other culinary schools who I have taught with and have worked with, they're like, they do what? You guys are doing what? I can't imagine the staff embracing it until they start to embrace it.
So that was sort of groundbreaking for a school to incorporate that, but it's just based on the power of collaboration. You and I and a couple of others sitting around the room talking about teaching and learning and practices. I didn't want to leave. It was just fascinating to me, and I love education. I can't frame it up. My whole life has been dedicated to coaching and teaching and being in schools, and this is just one more aspect to add to that. But by developing and enhancing and providing a platform for people to collaborate is a powerful tool. And all you're doing is, as Christine says, I think stealing with pride is just stealing some ideas and then incorporating it into what you're doing.
She says that's what you say.
So when we set it up, I thought it was a wonderful way to go. And there's all sorts of different ways. Like we, have brought in guest speakers. So what you do is bring in guest speakers to talk to the students. The students are enthralled because it's someone new. Now you can free up 6 or 7 staff to work together free for an hour.
Right.
And what I was finding then is that the teachers wanted to listen to the speaker as well. So that was a bit of a challenge. But and then, as you and I've talked about, some teachers in culinary and hospitality colleges literally have been left for 20 years. And no one's, other than a 2-minute evaluation, someone says, pass, you continue teaching. That's the only feedback. I mean, what we would do and what I have done, we'd sit in there for hours and watch people. You and I have done this together, and then sit and do a breakdown, break the lesson down piece by piece, everything from the finish to the engaging at the start. Then talk about things like, how can we incorporate technology? We took an idea with a camera where in a science class or in high school or in a technology class or an IT class, there's often a camera right over, say, a lathe or right over a science experiment to see the actions. Well, we took that idea and pulled that right into, say, a cake decorating class. So rather than sit back like most people where you're back 25 feet and they're all trying to see what's going on and over someone's shoulder, if they're short, they've got a direct route. If they're tall, they look like a giraffe in about a week. Now with a camera and a 47-inch screen, putting a TV screen in a kitchen is a new idea. People are afraid of that, but it's a really, really good teaching technique.
I think
so. We really go in and look at the whole operation. We look at the curriculum. We talk to the industry. We spend time with the students. We think about the teaching techniques and how to give them updates. But is the school making money? Is there profit? So we can talk to that. And then the other aspect that we've also been asked to focus on many times is putting together a safety plan. There's an expert at this, and here we are in this industry where we're easing back in. So let's talk about the safety plan, not only of your culinary school in the world post-COVID and what we're in right now, but what is the industry going to have as far as their changes in operating restaurants and hotels and bars? How can we then be teaching the right information so they're ready for the industry? So a really in-depth safety plan is so important.
So I find so many schools, Jason, just have a safety plan that looks like this. If there's a fire, do the following. If there's an earthquake, duck and cover. But it's 2020 and there's a few more things going on in the world than just earthquakes and fires. And in fact, thank God the fire department's got, fire safety figured out a little bit. We don't have, 1 million houses in London burning down anymore.
Right.
There are things like abductions. There are things like COVID. How do we get through that? I've seen schools close to a harbor that have absolutely no plan to deal with a chemical fire a block and a half from the front door. I've seen other schools that have an exit plan that has them exiting under a bridge that was built before you were born. Not quite, well, not as old as me, but I don't think assembling under a bridge is a good idea. And there have been chemical fires in ships in Vancouver. We should have a plan in place for your son or my daughter or your daughter. And those are fun to put together. And they're unique in each place. You can't just kind of take a cookie cutter plan that says duck and cover and go outside after the earthquake. Well, you're right beside 6 80-story buildings. Maybe that's not the right place to be, that kind of thing.
When we talk about COVID, I mean, that's the elephant in the room too. I mean, I hate to talk about it because everybody's talking about it, but this is an opportunity to talk about your expertise and to be able to discuss setting up teaching programs so that chefs coming out can say, okay, what have we learned from this? And how can we move forward, and how can we be safe in food handling and in working together in small spaces and social distancing and what PPEs do we need and all of that stuff, right? So, I mean, to be able to have those conversations with people who maybe aren't even thinking that, they're just thinking, you know, we're going to get back in the classroom and do what we were doing for the last 20 years.
Right. And maybe right now they can't get back into the classroom 24/7. They can't run a 5 or 6 day a week course. So maybe we also help them adjust how they set up their curriculum timetable. They're in for a few hours, a couple days a week. We're keeping the social distancing, but in those other days, they're out in the industry getting some real life experience. Some of their courses might have to be taught online. Well, let's evaluate that. There's nothing more boring than a really bad online course, because all of us have been through them. So let's think about the way to engage and the way to teach properly online so that you're still learning. When they go back into those kitchen rooms and those kitchen classes, they have that information from online, they adapt it to the kitchen.
So Jason, what I would say there is that prior to March, not anyone in the world even knew what a PPE is. So now, you know, they call it the new normal, and people say it's not going to go away right away. What I know is that crisis is often the driver of change, and many professionals have adapted. I look at the paramedics. You know, they've got the PPE on, they've got everything covered before they get out and deal with someone. They've had to adapt rather quickly. So I think, given the COVID crisis and the financial and economic as well as safety drain, bringing in 2 consultants for 3 days a week, whatever the case may be, you don't have to tie 2 people to your salary and cost you more money. It's a short period of time. Again, your decision. It could be a week, 3 days, a 2-hour visit with staff, whatever the case may be, to get that change, to get that information, to get that experience. We can move on to other colleges, and you know, that college isn't straddled with you know, 2 people.
And we wouldn't leave any college that we would visit with a list of, here's what's wrong. We're going to say, here's what's right, here's some ideas, and here's some solutions you can implement. So really think about what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and how to get there.
I think any admin who is forward thinking and is a part of the evolution of the industry as we are right now, it takes a look at this and says, what an opportunity to bring these people in, to learn from them, to connect with them, to have our faculty experience their energy and their knowledge, and the same thing with our students. And what a highlight to be able to have the 2 of you come and be a part of a week with the school. I think the opportunity is a once in a lifetime thing.
I'm going back to get my wife again. No,
Captain, my captain. Your wife knows that I love you, Dave.
I know that. Jason, I love you too. The thing I would say is that, you know, what you're going to do is bring in experience. I'm in contact now with culinary colleges in the Philippines. I was touching base with some in China today. You know, Indonesia. Christine has got contacts across Canada as well as United States. So it's an idea, as I said before, of, gee, I never thought of that, or that's what they're doing over here. So you get 2 people to bring these ideas, both from the industry as well as education, and just blend them and then share that. And now is the time the industry needs help more than ever.
Right.
And so this is an exciting opportunity for us. I
think also when people learn what your backgrounds are and the schools that you've made successful, there are a lot of schools who shadow in comparison to the schools that the 2 of you have operated and run and helped become a success. That to be able to get the opportunity to learn how that happened from you is unbelievable.
Well, we worked with a colleague, and I won't mention the name, but after one Pro D session that we pulled together, he came to me and thanked me very much for caring, and held both my hands with his hands, which is probably not good anymore in COVID, but it was pre-COVID, and said, I just want to thank you so much. I learned so much. And this was the example. He said, no one has given me any information in 20 years. I've been doing the same thing all the way along every year because it's easier to do that. But
Right.
Now I'm going to actually go into my classroom and change the way I teach for the rest of my career. And I just can't thank you enough. And I'm thinking, gee, I didn't think anyone would think that little session was that powerful. But I mean, you and I have looked at the research on everything from chunking to incorporating technology, but everything is based on caring. And basically, as Christine and I have talked, this is about taking professional information, giving it to employees and sharing it with staff, and showing them you care, that this is what I do. And we want you to know that what you're doing is important to us as a college or as a facility. And we really want to make sure we help you.
And we want to set them up for success in any way that we can. So whether it's setting up the faculty for success or the culinary school and the students as well, let's set everybody up for success.
I even just listening to the two of you talk, I mean, makes me swoon. But I think people who are watching this are probably sitting there going, who knew that there are people out there with this experience, with this much care, who want to help the industry, not just the food service industry, but also who we put into the food service industry and who's teaching those people. That's like I said, what an opportunity. I can't say that enough, to have a chance to work with the two of you. And I love having you guys on, and I love talking shop with the two of you in both levels, in both just the academic and also in the food. Anytime I have either of you on the phone, I never want to hang up. And thanks so much for coming on. I mean, your company, Teach, Taste, Learn, is really a gift to the industry.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you say. Anyone interested, certainly have them reach out to teachtastelearn.com and set up a time with us. We can discuss their particulars and a time for us to come and visit them and really set them up for success for the future.
Well, this is, if you have anything to add before we go, I mean, we are live, so this is a great opportunity to add anything that you'd like.
Well, I think. Whoops. One thing I was thinking, Jason, is one college we were working with is we listened to some people in the industry and talked about people getting great training, but no business sense. So the idea we came up with was the idea of connecting with a local college where they would come on campus and students would take culinary training. And then in the afternoon, they could take actual college classes on accounting, on a business, and on marketing, and combine those two things. That's just one simple idea that just makes so much sense. So there's lots of ideas you can look at. And I think, as we've talked about with collaboration, is sitting down and sharing and talking, touching base, you can make a big difference.
I think
Absolutely.
Chef and I could talk about people who we know who are wonderful artists in their craft, but have no concept about the numbers and no concept about how the business runs. And somebody has been kind enough and believed in them enough to give them the funding to start their own thing, and they don't know what to do with it other than continue being craftsmen. And to be able to have that business part of it is just absolutely key.
Well, they never were taught to be the business side, and so certainly helping them do that. Think about when you become an executive chef. You were never taught to be an executive chef. You were taught to be a prep cook. And
Right.
Now you have to know the business side of being an executive chef. The flip side to look at this too is we've been approached, certainly in the past and certainly going forward, we will be again, by restaurant chains or companies to really think about what they need for customized training for their staff. So you don't want to send everybody back at once, but how can we have customized training, bring them up to speed? Certainly their target diners have changed, their menus have changed, the skill sets in the kitchen, the equipment in the kitchen has changed. So how can we help them retrain for the future?
I think when we look at the training needs, and we've had this conversation before, they've changed a lot in the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, going back to, we're not making terrines anymore, right? Like, and that's still a part of the curriculum in many cases. Oh, you need to know how to do this. It's part of your block 3 or whatever province you happen to be in. And it's just something that we don't serve. It's so whether or not these things are relevant and are we sourcing things differently? Have we gone back to sourcing things locally, and how to create those connections through the school, through your restaurants, and to give those connections to your students when they leave.
One good example too, I was talking to Christine about this the other day, is a colleague that Christine and I work with, Mathieu Gilbert, is a sommelier and a former teacher at Glion in Switzerland. And he's been hired by a major airline now to teach serving to the on-flight staff.
Right.
It's a very, very tough competition for airlines to begin with, but coming out of COVID, it's going to be far tougher. So this one particular airline recognized here's a sommelier who's an amazing human being, plus trained by one of the best institutes in the world on how to serve. And now the entire onboard staff of that airline is going to be trained by a teacher. It's a nice blend and mix of the two industries, three actually, I guess, if you add travel and hospitality as well as education.
Imagine combining service training with flight attendants.
Yeah. So his website is Mad Scientist, and he's an amazing human being, and
Wow.
just a really neat person to connect with, and does lots of other work. But that's a really neat a combination of the education, the travel industry, as well as the hospitality and culinary.
And that's an example of some of the connections that we have too, to be able to pull those experts in.
And for us, some of the connections that we have are you guys.
Yeah.
Which I love to brag about, by the way.
We'd like you to pull in Mathieu together and maybe run a sommelier session for the two of us. That would be good.
Well, we would just be drinking wine the whole time, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on today. It's always a pleasure talking with you both, and I love that we got to do this live. And the fact that you guys are, again, available and you are so passionate about what you do, it's just your generosity to the industry is a gift. And thank you from the industry to you. I love that you're available to be able to work with schools and organizations and to be available. Teach, Taste, Learn, again, everybody, is the name of Christine and Dave's consulting company, and you can get a hold of them on their website. You can touch base with them on LinkedIn. You can contact us at Real Hospitality, and we're happy to connect you directly. If you are watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, any of the platforms, feel free to leave questions on there or comments, and we'll be going back afterwards over the next day or so and answering them, and later this afternoon. And this is a great opportunity to ask some of the top experts in the world some questions that might be on your mind about teaching and culinary and all of this. So again, thank you to Chef Christine Couvelier and my good friend, oh Captain, my Captain, Dave Derpak.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Robbie.
Robbie says.